Hello. I got my generic Play-Doh and I am making a that what is meditation right now. And I need the Play-Doh to keep me focused. Otherwise, my brain will jump all over the place. And so for meditating, one wants to be focused enough to keep the mind in this now moment and not wander off too much into escape routes and thinking or planning or doing this or that, but staying with this now moment. I see the bird up in the crown of the tree, a stellar jay, and that's okay to see these things and to take in what you see while you're doing a meditation. It's very good to do this in a forest, when you go alone into the forest, or with your dog or other animal. And you sit there and you let your animal graze and you look into the trees. It's a wonderful thing to do, and just be there in this now moment with all there is, all the natural surroundings or unnatural surroundings, wherever you are. It doesn't matter what surrounds you. You just sit there with that surrounding and with the feelings that come up and with who you are, and you love yourself and accept yourself, who you are. That brings up emotional pain from the past, because when we haven't been loved by our parents, and most people have not, this is a fact. That's why the world is in such turmoil, because most people act out that pain on others, on other living beings, or they act it out in greed form or in very much selfishness and not looking at the consequences of their actions, how their actions are hurting others in the long run. So most people are not conscious at all about it, but almost all of us have been hurt in childhood, whether we have been hurt physically or emotionally through the parents not being there for us, not being emotionally available for us, being distant, being somewhere drifted off in their own emotional pain and their own emotional act outs in this extremely neurotic surroundings and of society itself, where everyone is doing that, and then it just perpetuates itself, continues to perpetuate itself. I told my friend Mirka earlier on Facebook that I am afraid of the future. I'm afraid of getting old. I'm not a god. I'm not an angel. I'm an indigo. I am suffering. I have ego. I have needs. I have physical, psychological needs, sexual needs, all of these things. And there's no shame in it. It just is. I want to be liked. There are some God level souls that are beyond that. They are beyond it. Some people are very much beyond that. Like Ingrid Newkirk has never focused on herself, has never focused on, how sexy she wants to come across to men and all of this. Never made this into an issue. That's why I say she's a God level soul, but even angel level souls are still they are still prone to those types of act out because they are not God level yet. So it takes God level, soul level to have energetically transcended this already before they came into existence. So, or the transition happens during a lifetime from angel to God level. That can happen too. And then suddenly that is completely transcended. That happens. It often happens at the end of the lifetime. David Foster Wallace did that transition from indigo to angel soul level when he went through. No, he didn't. He did not transcend into angel at the end of his life when he committed suicide. He was getting much closer to it, much closer to the angel level during this very, very harsh, monstrous phase. This harsh, monstrous decision that someone makes to end their life. It's a monstrous pain that precedes that. That's why I cry every time someone tells me a person I've known has committed suicide. That's why I cry. I cry even over those people who I didn't like, because then I realize how much they have suffered. Because I've been there so many times myself at that level, at that point. David Foster Wallace, when he came back as Dave, he transitioned to angel during the very harsh early years of his life, in a kennel and locked up, and even exposed to cold climates, cold weather, and who knows what he's been through. Been through a lot. He's been through so much that he developed a tumor, that 2 of his teeth had to be removed before we got him. We would not have removed the tumor because it causes metastases, and it did. It caused him metastases. But I'm curing those metastases as they pop up here and there. I'm curing them with sodium bentonite clay. People will probably think this is outlandish and unheard of. It is unheard of because it hasn't been heard and it hasn't been accepted by society. That's why. Society doesn't want to accept it because they have been conditioned. They have been so deeply conditioned that my best friends, Barbara and Berger, angel souls, that they didn't even see through this. So that's how deeply the conditioning of society is from the pharmaceutical industry. And they don't shy away from manipulating the media and from sneaking certain propaganda into movies. They don't shy away from that. They have market psychologists like Richard Berman. There's an entire corporate summit where the corporate, all these different really mega corporations are meeting, where the CEOs are meeting. Okay, this is happening. This is not Illuminati or something like this. Maybe that exists too, but it's not what they claim to be. They want to sound much more scary than they actually are. That's why they put these conspiracy theories into the world. Conspiracy theories are made by the corporate agenda. That's what people don't seem to understand. They are set into the world to confuse people and make them afraid, so that people think they have so much leverage over them that there's no way they could ever win, or they are, and also to keep people unempowered. That's the goal of that. I love the smell of this. This is very healing. Oh God. Breathe. So I just want to sit in this meditation here, talk a bit, and breathe, and feel like there's a friend there who joins me with this process, who meditates with me together on their situation and also on our common goal to make the world a better place for all living beings, so that nobody has to suffer anymore. No living being has to suffer anymore. Okay, we can start with ourselves and spread that information and give to others and inform others on all of these different things, on the problems and also on the solutions. Because there are concrete solutions out there, almost literally. Concrete as in clay. And with clay, you can write with your finger into it. And you can write, I love myself. And when it hardens, it is written in concrete. And then you can say, I am my own God. Yeah. I wrote with my finger into concrete. Before it was concrete, though. Yeah. That's how it works. You know, that's how they used to preserve information in the very past. That's why they interpret into it as, you know, rock slates that have been written by their God, but it's written by people. It was either carved into a rock, you know, or chiseled into the rock, or it was kneaded into a rock like this, and then it hardened later and became rock. Like this hardens, but it doesn't become like a rock. If this hardens, it will still be very much destructible, and you can hammer it and it will kind of crumple. It will create crumbs. So in that sense, there is no permanent concrete anywhere, no matter how hard the concrete is. Now they developed a translucent concrete, which is really cool, to make walls with, to let light into buildings without anyone spying into the window with a drone. So that's kind of cool, all of this. For very neurotic and paranoid people out there, this is a great way of building homes. I prefer to see out, you know, I also would like to have translucent concrete where the concrete has to be, you know, like on the bottom floor or foundation, and maybe not the foundation, but, you know, the different floor levels, and you know, would be nice to have everything transparent completely, even the floor, so you can see through the floor and see the people underneath. But it's all cool, but it's not really ideal, because we have to have privacy. But to make something like this in the future that is awesome, and we can enjoy nature around you and still be inside of your home, protected from the elements, and be on your computer and see all the way panoramically around, and see the forest all the way around you. This would be awesome. There are so many amazing ways of building, and building green too at the same time. So, but I am sitting here and I am just rambling on and netting my Play-Doh and just letting, it's not easy to get into the pain, but it's okay to, when the thoughts come, not to resist the thoughts either. It's just better to focus on really what really wants to come up inside, which is usually the pain, and we suppress this, or something else, the mechanism, the defense mechanism, which is the ego, comes in real quickly and shuts that off and takes us somewhere else. Takes us to a tropical beach, feels better. But the funny thing with me is that my whole life, if I try to think about a tropical beach, like voluntarily, deliberately, in order to feel better, I would think about the tropical beach, and then my pain will burrow its way through that tropical beach, and will deliver me with a cut off hand suddenly on that beach, in my thoughts, thought processes. So this is just one example. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of how my horror thoughts look like, because they look so bad that I don't want to burden anyone with it. But yeah, I have horror thoughts. They are forceful, and they bombard me. And so far, I know of about 3 people other than myself who have that too. So there could be many more, but they don't talk about it. So, because they feel like then that would chase other people away. But I think that makes it even more important to talk about it. Because whatever we repress becomes more ferocious in time. It snowballs, actually. And it escalates out of control. Sit here and look at my chin and my bags under my eyes, and I go, okay, it's not gonna get better in time. It's not gonna. I haven't seen it get better. So even my Pieris is my flower that I take every day. Even that, it might slow down the aging process, might slow down it quite a bit even. I also got some good genes, and I'm very, very grateful, infinitely grateful for that, of course. I'm grateful for everything I have, but it is an inevitability that every one of us, the neck becomes more like the fat prevents one from seeing these, like, see this here, this. When you do that, then it becomes, those ligaments, they stand out more, and it's just all of these terrible things. It's just inevitable. For women, it really mega sucks. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it. For women, it's like the ultimate drama. That's why they go under the knife, man. That's why That's why they are willing to do all kinds of terrible things to themselves, suffer physically so that they don't have to suffer emotionally. It's, it's such a farce, it's such a ridiculous thing. Lucky for me, I see through this. We can all see through this. We can all sit back and reflect on it and see through it and breathe. See people hang their neck through like this. My friend Berger used to do this. That's not good. No way, because that's kind of like the giving up posture. It's like she let people reach into her purse at an escalator, for example, in Germany. Just the purse would hang down almost to her knees, and the flap on top be open. It's all open. Nothing is even zipped, and she would stand there like this. Whatever. Take my money out. It doesn't matter. Kind of like this. With this kind of like a defeatist energy. I'm not making fun of her. I love this woman so infinitely much, just as much as Barbara and my family overseas, and Annalise and all of them, my brother and his family. Okay. I'm just pointing out, this is the problem, She stands there, and what happened was a man sees his opportunity, and he reaches into the purse and he pulls her wallet out with thousands and thousands of euros. And the euro is more expensive than the dollar, so it doesn't feel good. No, it doesn't. But that's what I'm talking about, It's this, don't do this, oh, yeah, like this, let them just take my money. No, no. You sit straight and you love yourself. Okay. You flex your back and your muscles, and you relax the shoulders at the same time. You bend the neck forward and out like this. Align it with the spinal cord. Breathe all the way through. It's very good to become aware, like what Mirka is doing. She's doing very well. Very good to become fully conscious about all these self mechanisms that are happening. Like when I breathe, the pain comes up. This is happening. This is a universal thing for all of us. That's why it's so important to breathe. Particularly this lack of self-love comes because we haven't been given the love that we needed from our mothers. Okay. So we have to mechanically do it, induce it with our brain, with our intelligence. And we have to say to our egos, it's okay, you don't have to guard me right now. You can sit down with a glass of mineral water by the pool and let the body, let the pain come to the surface, let the child come up and talk to us and say, hey, things are not all sunshine, I wanted you to hear this, don't overrun me with your self-defense mechanisms, whatever people are doing, breathe and see what the child has to actually say, not turn the radio on or Rush Limbaugh or something. That's the first thing people do. It's like, ping comes up, oh, I gotta go to Rush Limbaugh, who himself is running away from his pain, taking drugs and getting into self-images, capitalizing on people's gullibility. All of this has nothing to do with actually living, with actually being, existing fully in full consciousness, bypassing. He and his fans are bypassing the actuality of things, bypassing life. It's like what Adi Ashanti said, that their wives go to have plastic surgery done to freeze in their face in order to look more alive. This is so true. And that's so true with all kinds of things people do. They want to be loved, so they get a butt implant. Then they are attracting the wrong man who cannot love. That's how it works. I mean, it's just two out of billions of examples of neurotic escapism that's going on in the world. I don't want to do that. I really, sorry, I'm not part of this network. Not going to be, never will be. I can't kid myself like that. Not going to kid myself. I can only live with 100% honesty towards myself. Everything else is bypassing living and bypassing my responsibility that I have for the world, for myself. That's why I had to quit smoking and drinking early on. Quit all of this at 25. I just knew it was just, there wasn't even a choice to make. It was just, I had to do it. If you're standing in front of an abyss, are you going to jump into the abyss? Are you going to ponder whether you're going to jump? Or are you going to just make a U-turn and walk back to save yourselves? It's no choice, really. And actual suicide is also an act out. Arjanov said that too, and I have to agree with him. It is true. I thought about this for a long time. Is that an act out, or is it just end of the road or something? It's an act out. It definitely is, and it's escapism. That's what it is. It's trying to escape. That's what it is. Trying to escape from the pain. Can't take it anymore. Pain too much. It's not horrible. We're not being punished for it. But it's a horrible thing to be in that state and to actually do this. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Absolutely horrible. Horrific. I wonder sometimes whether David Foster Wallace has actually done that. I really wonder sometimes. I wonder whether he was actually forced into it by the book mafia, because as it is with artists, when an artist or writer dies who's already famous, the fame will go up exponentially after the death. And so The editing companies, just as with the gallerists, some of them might see their opportunity, and they might they might pay their own hitmen, they might send people over to get that done and make it look like a suicide. That's the most famous thing to do. They did it with Aaron Schwartz. Aaron Schwartz, for different reason, but it's the same thing. Aaron Schwartz was exposing things in the government, so they did it for that reason. But the mechanism of that hitman modus operandi is the same. Made it look like a suicide, but it's horrible, absolutely horrible. When an artist or writer is murdered like that, and then the family thinks it's suicide, but it was really murder, and no one will ever uncover that. It will never come to the surface. For Dave, it doesn't matter to him. It is his soul journey. He's not looking back on it or regretting anything. That's all soul contract, part of the journey. But the parents, they might think, oh, he committed suicide, and terrible guilt will come up, insurmountable feelings of regret and guilt, and when in reality he was really trying to make it and working on a very important book, already having a huge volume, was still working on it. The Pale King. I ended up finally buying the book on Kindle ebook reader. So it's a piece of art. It's like an artist painting. David was writing and observing society. Very, very carefully observing society and all of their painful actions that they're doing, and the painful nonsense that is created by the ego, such as the entire taxing system. Oh my goodness, what an incredible farce and waste of time and bleakness, and that people wallow in that, and they think that's their world. That's amazing. It's very depressing to read his books. Very, very depressing, to say the least. But I have a very strong soul connection to him. So, and he came into my life. He doesn't worry anymore about that, what he has put behind him. Whether it was suicide or murder, that's part of that journey, It doesn't matter whether we're a basset hound or a human. It does not matter at all. The soul journey is its soul journey. We're learning and learning. When Dave was living with his foster mothers, there was a girl dog, a girl basset hound, Penelope. And she was jealous of him, very, very jealous. And she didn't know anything other than violence, so she bit him many times. They were so glad they found someone so that he wouldn't get into that situation anymore where Penny would get jealous and bite him. And who was Penny? Who was she in her past life? A stagnator soul. She was a woman, very jealous of everyone, The only means she had was bullying and violence. And it just, it does, it carries on. Whether it is in a lifetime of being a human, or the human one will abruptly end at some point, then it will continue. It will continue as a different body altogether. And it will continue with the focus points of that particular body and existence. When her jealousy in the past was of other women, and other women having beauty and money, and she couldn't stand it, then in this lifetime it is being a basset hound and thinking Kyla is her new mother, and she wanted Kyla for herself. And then Dave comes into their lives, and that was not okay for her. She did not want Dave to be sitting on Kyla's lap. That was not feeling good, no. So it was like, it's just a different focus. That's all it is. Continues on. And I bet she was probably not very kind to dogs in her human lifetime. So didn't understand their needs. Didn't understand where they're coming from. So what happens is, hey, you have something to learn. You gotta come back as a basset hound. And she said, okay, okay. And then being the basset hound, the memories from the past are gone. It's suddenly this existence. But the learning process continues where it left off. That's what it is. I can exit now, I'll come back in some other body, and the process continues. It just continues. It's a flow, The infinite cosmos is alive, and it is a flow. And I can end my resistance, but that means I end myself. I end my ego, and that's what Jiddu Krishnamurti says is the actual death. That's what he's talking about. Because an actual physical death often implies that ego death. I talked about this before, in my other video. In the video before the last, I talked about it. Sometimes people have not let go, but the body dies. And when that happens, then there's an energy that is still trapped in this mechanism. And that energy then will add itself back into the stream of sorrow, or it will continue in other people, which are all tuned into the stream of sorrow. It's sort of like one river. That's why the egos, they resonate with one another so much. They can smell each other from miles away. Oh, there's another ego coming. Let me. Yeah, that's what the ego says. Ego thinks, let me tickle him a little bit. Let me trigger him a little bit. And then we can do our ego dance together. I'm not free of it. It requires a long growing and learning process to do that. The best thing, therefore, is when I'm suicidal, and I got suicidal again today, it comes and goes. When I get suicidal, then I just have to, I sit with it. This is it. I'm not running away. I'm not going to listen to Rush Limbaugh or Alex Jones or the Young Turks or any of these people to distract me, you know. No, I listen to those people who remind me of that energetic flow that we are all in. It's an energetic flow. It's a soup. People call it matrix, you know, it's whatever you want to call it. It's an energetic interconnectivity that's going on, and that is vibrating, and that is wobbling like this, and moving, constantly moving and shifting and flowing. Nothing is stagnant. Nothing stagnates, ever. And as Mr. Hicks said, if we try to cling to something, you know, the current of the river will eventually knock us down, deep down into the current. But if we ride the surf and if we flow with that movement, if we consider ourselves part of that movement, and that only happens when we are willing to transcend that self, that sense of self. You know, breathing. Breathing is the number one thing where I see my resistance happening. You know, it's like when I don't breathe fully, or when I forget to breathe, or when the breathing is hard to do, then I remember there's my own resistance in it. And it is visceral, that resistance. It's not a conscious thing. It's not even unconscious. It's a visceral, physical type of clinging. It's an energetic blockage that's happening. And that's because we have been severely hurt as children. An adult man, can actually hurt a little girl just by having sexual thoughts about her. The energy of that is enough to traumatize a child. And there were several of those adult males. And I remember very clearly that they looked at me funny. Okay, that I remember clearly. And it didn't feel good. It made me feel vulnerable and exposed. It made me feel like I wanted to put a chador around me, or an armor, when I was a little child. It went so far that I did not want to become a woman. When I was 13, I was terrified of that idea. So my abstract thinking process started to function in the brain. That's at about age 13. That's also when the period starts and the hormone starts and all of this. And it is a strange metamorphosis that happens then when these things all develop suddenly. The abstract thinking process. So the way I used my abstract thinking process were I was no longer as a child painting out of my guts like Jackson Pollock did or other belly painters. But suddenly I did some of those too, but they were rather conscious and I was very aware, sort of showing my pain in a very aware kind of way, and painting things that I didn't like. Painted myself the way I saw myself, like thin and tall and vulnerable. And then I started to paint myself the way I wanted to see myself. Short, with short legs and fat. And then I went later on in my life, this thing evolved into different stages. As I grew older, and also it evolved according to the way I started to heal these things. But this is a very, very slow, gradual process. For most of my life, I could not even accept the girliness. And I am a very female brain and body, very much so, with loads of female hormones of all sorts, loads of it, loads of it. It was painful too, very painful. And that collided with what I did at 13, with wanting to become my little brother again. I wanted to become my little brother. I wanted to be, not necessarily as a male, I didn't want to become a male, but I wanted to be the chubby little baby. I wanted to be like the chubby little baby brother. So, with a pot haircut, fat, chubby, cute, and what I understood was wholesome. So every time I see a chubby, cute woman, I feel like, oh, this is very amazing to look like that, or this is desirable, or this is cute. And I see men like that also. Men like cute, chubby women that are very feminine. And then that reinforces this, of course. But yeah, I had this very, my brain abstracted this into this. Yeah, I want to be a chubby little pig. So I want to be like Papa Dog. Papa Dog, a chubby, short hippopotamus baby. Yeah, that's how I. Yes, Papa Dog. Yes, see here is it. The Play-Doh. You want to see Play-Doh? No, it doesn't appeal. Not appealing. No, Play-Doh is not much appealing. It doesn't have. It's vegan. It doesn't smell like anything that he would like to eat. So my affinity is still there. It shows itself in my art. It shows itself in my choice of dogs. The former dog had very long legs though, but what they have in common is that droopy face and that big muzzle and the big narrow head, muzzle, and the specific shape, the shape of the body, like very squishy and choppy and gorgeous. So yeah. And it's not, I don't see that as neurotic. I just see this as that. I see that as art, as beauty. But when I was 13, it was definitely becoming an abstraction and an escape from the pain, where I was actually making myself into becoming that chubby baby. Was overeating, and I gained a lot of weight in a very short time. In like half a year or less than that, I gained more than 50 pounds. I don't know. Yeah, about 50 pounds. I guess that's about 25 kilos or something. 30 kilos, something like that. That's quite a bit. Then I also grew, of course. I was growing at the same time. It was extremely painful. I can't, there's no words for it, how painful that was. And then through a lot of introspection, through a lot of meditating on it, I was finally, within the last couple of years, finally coming to love and accept me as that very feminine being with a feminine brain and feminine body. So, that's Papa Dog, what is it, babes? What is it, love? What is it? Papa Dog's whistling. I don't know what he wants. He's like, nose whistling. And he wants something, or he's thinking about something, thinking about food or some kind of action. Papa Dog, what is it, baby? Papa Dog, I love you more than myself, more than anything in the entire eternal universe. And that is the truth. Yes, that is the truth, Papa Dog. That is the total truth. I give my life for Papa Dog anytime. He's my rescuer. He rescued me after Kenny died. I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it through that grief. That was infinite, that grief. And I still have grief moments where I start crying again over him. And I will for the rest of my life, of course, because Kenny was the Buddha. Our Father was that, is that. Nothing gets lost, everything just changes shape, like this here. That's all it is. Papa Dog, yes, the Play-Doh. Yes. Oh, Papa Dog, what is it, baby? What is it, love? Yes. Awesome, gorgeous. Yes, you are gorgeous. Gorgeous test. Yes, that's what I always say to him. All day long, I say that. So the camera is probably going to turn off any time now, but I'm going to let it run until it has reached its maximum video recording capacity. It feels good to talk like this, connect with others. Maybe they can sort of resonate with what I say, and maybe it rings true, maybe it doesn't. And whatever it does, you can, if you feel like it, if you feel the courage to share your story with me, you can do that. I'm here. I'm always here. Okay, I will listen to you. We're in this together, all of us. It is a soup. The infinite cosmos is a soup.